Hello, everyone. Welcome to the B2B Mix Show. Elena, do you know what we're going to talk about this week?
I do.
Why don't you
You
tell
want to
her?
know? We're talking about LinkedIn messaging and the right approach to that, because I think a lot of people are either afraid at times on what they're going to say. So they either don't say anything or they just keep it very basic. And it comes down to, how you're sending your connection requests, how you're commenting and engaging with other people, and what you need to do in order to get engagement back, instead of making people say, "Ooh, I don't want to talk to you. I'm going to put up a wall, or I'm going to delete, I'm going to unconnect you because you just pitched me right after we connected."
Yeah, that's my favorite thing to do is disconnect.
Oh, I thought you were going to say to pitch people.
No, to disconnect after people go in for the kill on that very
Yes.
first ask.
Yep. Or they
I
wait
know.
a little bit. They've gotten to the point where they don't do it right away,
Yeah,
some people, and they wait a little bit, and it's like, come on. No.
I know.
And
I'm not.
I still get rid of them if they do that.
Yeah, I do too. And no offense to all the people who do that, but just know there is a better way. And
Right.
today's guest has an ebook that's out that will help you find that better way. He's also got a cool tool that you can use to manage your LinkedIn connections and how you communicate with them. Elena, would you like to introduce today's guest?
I would. So we have Vedran Rasic on the call today, and we know him as Ved. He is a software entrepreneur and founder of some of the most loved apps, such as AutoClose and Lead Delta. He is experienced in delivering successful products, go-to-market strategies, achieving targets, and building high-performance teams. So besides his undivided focus on Lead Delta as the CEO, he also has angel invests and supports early stage startups in his free time. Thank you so much, Ved, for being on the B2B Mix Show. We are excited to have you on to talk about all different kinds of stuff related to LinkedIn, messaging, and all kinds of things like that. But before we kind of jump into that, can you tell us a little bit more about, Lead Delta and why you created it?
Absolutely. It's so awesome to be here. And it's been nice to finally be able to catch up, at least on air, between the three of us.
Yes.
So Lead Delta, at first, we figured out that the world is moving towards from cold to warm. And I think this is now a point where there's no coming back, because there's so much data out there that I think businesses are kind of starting to grasp and kind of use a bit more. And on top of that, we believe that no professional should start from an empty CRM, right? So those were my two core beliefs that I've coined from the previous experiences. And then I really love LinkedIn, and I just figured out that it's a great platform. And because it's such a huge company, it cannot innovate fast enough to follow all the trends, right? So those were the kind of 2-3 beliefs that I had, and kind of signals from the market. And then basically we just pulled the trigger, and I started testing on Lead Delta, which is what I call today your social CRM. And yeah, that's how it came to be.
So, how would Lead Delta be different from, say, a LinkedIn Premium subscription or even Sales Navigator? Are they for different
Right.
users, or do they do similar things?
So I get that question asked quite a lot, and so where Lead Delta sits is right after the Sales Navigator. So those two products at the moment do not compete at all against one another. So first things first, you use Sales Navigator mainly to expand on your searches, to add amazing filters that LinkedIn Sales Navigator offers. I mean, you can see who's active, who's actively posting, who's been mentioned on the news. You can go deeper on the company level or function level, etc. It has like over 40 filters if I remember correctly. So you basically use Sales Navigator to grow the network. Once you connect with somebody, then the question becomes, which is one of our insights, right? Then the question becomes, so what do you do with it, with a connection right now? And from our experience, I've seen people connect and pitch immediately, or they connect and then they save the person for for a later pitch or later down the pipeline to reach out and again pitch something. So we think that that's just insufficient, and it just creates a whole bunch of spam. So where Lead Delta comes in is basically allowing you to have a preview of all your connections in a single place, the ability to get to connections data quicker, in a sense, like, their job title, where they're from, the phone number, the email, contacts, and all the nitty gritty data that you need from your connections. Plus, you can leave notes, etc. And on top of that, we allow you to organize the network based on some advanced filters that not even LinkedIn Sales Nav has, and combination of those filters, right? We also have tags and labels that you can apply. So all that is allowing you to really segment your contacts properly. And once the opportunity for you to help or, cast an ask comes, in that situation, you would apply those filters, those segments, and reach out to those connections, and it'd be 100% relevant, which is what I'm trying to do. Because again, what's the point of connecting and handshaking, exchanging that online business card if you're not going to do anything with it?
Right.
Right.
And like what you mentioned, that people immediately pitch you, or you wait and you know it's coming. Like I have started just watching people to see how long they're going to wait before they start pitching. It is so annoying. It's like, don't just connect with me to pitch with me. Let's have some conversation or something other than that. And being able to kind of look at things in a different way. Like, I like how you can do tags in Lead Delta. Right. I have started doing that with some of mine in there. And then even just like the interface for the inbox is really cool, and how you can do templates and things like that. So it's a cool tool that people need to look at to take advantage of, and how they're communicating with others, instead of just
absolutely
pitch.
Exactly. And if you think about it, and if you again look at Lead Delta, it has a whole bunch of these, tiny tools and nuggets that you can utilize. For instance, like pinned messages, right? Once you're over 5,000 messages, we've done different research on LinkedIn, and there's approximately 20% of the people are really struggling with their inboxes. Before Lead Delta, I had like 3,000 messages on unread. And so what I use Lead Delta for right now is to apply pins on conversations that I truly care about. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll bring tags into inbox. So now all of a sudden you'll be able to filter for segments that you care about, and then work only on those segments. For example, we have a lot of CEOs and their chiefs of staff who literally use Lead Delta only to apply tags to their angels, VCs, entrepreneur peers. And then they have different segments for talent, right? They have, for instance, like developer talents, right? People that you want to be in touch with. And so what we're trying to do, because most of them have a whole bunch of pitches inside their inbox, we want to help them to get on top of that by focusing on the segment that they want to focus on. So there's like really the implications of, growing the network. On one side, it's awesome. You have a lot of followers. You have a lot of people in your network, second degree, third degree, etc. But then eventually, what it ends up happening is a whole bunch of spam, cluttered feeds. And when you log into LinkedIn, what you get is a whole bunch of screaming and yelling notifications, right? We're trying to make sense of it all, respecting the LinkedIn and respecting the community. And like I said, creating a warmer world.
Yeah, the pinning on the inbox is really cool, because there's one person that I talked to with one of my clients, and we're back and forth on something, and then I noticed he keeps getting pushed down, so I'm like, I can pin him. So I've pinned him in Lead Delta, and it makes it much easier. I don't have to go find it or anything like that. So messaging. So you guys have an ebook out, correct? It's called 50 Proven LinkedIn Messages to Use. Is that
correct?
In 2022.
2022.
So there are 4 chapters. They're focused on connection requests, messages to first degree connections, in mail, and then commenting on a post.
Correct.
So where did this ebook come from? Obviously, people just aren't hitting the mark when it comes to messaging.
Right.
You kind of talk us through the ebook and those different pieces, and give us some tips on maybe where people are going wrong and what they need to be doing.
No, absolutely. So if you look at the data, only 1% of LinkedIn on average posts once a week at least, right? So there's within my network, there's maybe, I don't know, like 100 people that are posting on a regular basis, meaning at least once a week. So creating content is generally a huge opportunity. And what we've noticed throughout the years is that there's a lot of lurkers on LinkedIn, meaning people consuming, reading, but not chatting, not messaging, etc. And I personally think that is a mistake because networks are like when you need something to get done or you just have capacity to help. You turn back to your network. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. So if you're hiring, if you want to promote the product, if you're looking to get a job, if you're selling, if you're marketing a new product, basically you start from zero. And then the first next step is you turn back to your network. And so if you are active, if you're posting, if you're actively sharing your journey, you don't have to be selling anything. If you're actively sharing your journey and even engaging other people's posts, we've seen that people tend to get a lot more benefits, 3 to 5 times more benefits from their networks, right? And I can for sure speak in my own example. Like, nothing changed. I'm still the same old guy, but I get a lot more requests, a lot more messages, and I get asked a lot more times, like, for my expertise to share even further and help other people. So there's tremendous opportunities within networks. So how do you really grasp those opportunities, and how can you proactively approach them? Well, by messaging and engaging. You don't have to be that public face that posts every day, creates videos all the time, right? But once you have an opportunity to connect people, like, why not sending a message to connect the two professionals together if you already know, that they have the similar need and they can help each other. Like, that can be one approach, one way. Secondly, if you have a product that you're launching and you want to gain some traction and some PR, in my case, you want to get people to go to your product hunt and upvote your posts and whatnot. Why not using Lead Delta or any other product to reach out to your network to support you there, right? Mm-hmm. So, and one key advice that I'd say, that, like, make it about them, tactics, use any, kind of bridge gap type of tactics. Like, forget about all that. Just respect other person's time and provide a very clear request. What do you need that person to do and why them? So 1 or 2 liners, very specific. Why are you reaching out to that person? I think that will 2x your reply rates. And in AutoClose, 3 years ago, we used basically that tactic when we would, we would figure out in a sales navigator if you are a director in a director sales role, if you're managing the East Coast or the West Coast or nationwide, and we would just basically send a one-liner, hey, Stace, I see you're a director of sales at that position, are you managing the East Coast or the West Coast? Like, truly, what in sales they would say, qualifying a person for what you're about to ask next would just get you like 80% more on the reply rates. So same thing, like with any other request that you're inquiring, just make it super simple for the other side to respond to your request.
Have you found that, like, keeping it? Because I get a lot of requests that say, looks like we're in the same industry, we should connect to share insight or whatever. But then they never come back to do that. I mean, it was really just a straight up, I want to get another connection, or maybe they come and pitch me after.
Yeah.
So what should they say instead of that?
So,
say they didn't do their homework. And
exactly. So in all honesty, I think people are we keep thinking about personalization as hey, first name from this particular industry in this geolocation, et cetera, right? But personalization can be talking about a relevant problem for a relevant target group. And that's the personalization that I like the most. Even inside Lead Delta, I mean, we only have like first name and last name. We don't have job titles like industry and whatnot, because I don't think it's honestly necessary. So what would be a better approach? Just honestly saying why you want to connect, right? And it does not have to involve a pitch. For instance, how I do it these days, it's usually like, hey, Elaine, I see we're both passionate about LinkedIn. and active on LinkedIn. Let's connect. You
Mhm.
know, and then my next question would be, so do you use any LinkedIn apps other than the free LinkedIn? Or oh yeah, I'm on Sales Navigator, etc. Right? This is the true sales engagement, and what usually
Mhm.
people expect from you is to respond within like 24 to 48 hours. And again, if you make it like in tiny chunks, if you make it simple enough for the other side to respond while they're on their phone walking around the mall, whatever, right? The more responses you are going to get.
Yes.
That's a good
Tiny
point.
tiny chunks, because somebody will connect with you and they'll send you like 5 paragraphs.
Yeah,
I know,
I'm
and
not
you're
going to
like
read it.
scrolling
I'm
all
not going to read
day.
it. Not going to do it.
honestly, yeah, I'm an evangelist for short messages because I keep saying that. People ask me hope because I post daily. People think that I'm way more important than I am, and and I keep telling them that. So people reach out, and it's usually like they try to be nice,
Hmm.
and then they just waste my time. And in all honesty, I usually don't respond back. I'm like, can you give me TLDR, right? Can you simplify
Yeah.
it for me? Because I'm just trying to be honest with people, and hopefully we'll bridge the gap industry wide. But so and then then the question becomes, how do you do social selling? How do you do social marketing? Whatever, right? How do you do anything social? Well, one thing is to send messages, but the reason the ebook has those 4 chapters is because those are the activities necessary for you to really be considered, in my mind, active and successful on LinkedIn, right?
Hmm.
So today you connect with me, okay, and we exchange our little tiny bites, right? You know, so tomorrow morning I post a post on LinkedIn, and because we just connected, LinkedIn algorithm will ping you about that post and be like, oh, your recent connection vet just posted this, right?
Hmm.
So there's your second touch point. The third touch point can be to invite them to follow your page on LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. So those are
Hmm.
some of the milestones that you should be looking at when connecting and engaging on LinkedIn. Um,
Yeah, and I think something you said earlier is very important, and it looks like your book takes great care to think about this, is respect for the other person's time.
yeah,
Don't overdo it with a bunch of blah blah blah. And I think, like
yeah,
Elena said, a lot of people have gotten to this point where they just want another connection. They've gamified it for themselves to grow that network, and it really doesn't mean anything. So
yeah. It doesn't
being
mean anything.
thoughtful and respectful. Yeah.
In all honesty, I've been on LinkedIn since 2010, I believe, approximately, and so I have a lot of these, old connections, considered old connections, and I honestly think this is not verified or checked. I honestly think that LinkedIn measures the engagement rate on your network. Like I deploy people to think about this as like credit cards or financial world, right? So when you look at the credit cards, and if you use just a tiny fraction of your credit potential, you know, there's a math there that says that you're not utilizing your credit. Same thing with the
Hmm.
Hmm.
network, right? If not a lot of people are engaging on your posts, it probably sends a signal to LinkedIn, hey, this guy just or girl just has a irrelevant network, right? So
Right.
so what I started even doing is just looking at people that are just not on LinkedIn at all. They haven't updated their profiles in a while. So honestly, I just remove them because I don't need to show the numbers like, oh, look, I have
Hmm.
30,000 connections. Oh, I maxed out my connections, because who cares, right? What
Hmm.
Right.
what matters is the engagement and the level of support that you can provide to that person, and the level of asks that you can cast onto other person and request, right? So
Right.
so that's how I look at it.
So when it
Yeah.
comes to like commenting,
Hmm.
so some people kind of get into a panic mode because they don't want to get into, oh well, somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong, or part of it's a confidence thing, and part of it is just they don't want to deal with it. And like, or then part of it could be like me. I do social all day, every day for everybody else. I don't do mine as much as I should. I'm like I'm
Yeah.
tired by the time it gets to
Mm.
me. But for so that's my excuse.
Mm.
But for other
That's
people,
interesting.
they're scared. They're like, oh, I don't know what to say, or I'm scared to say anything because I don't want somebody to tell me I'm wrong. And so how do you kind of overcome
Mm.
those things, and what's the best way to kind of go about commenting on posts?
Right. In all honesty, I'm not sure if there's a right answer to that. I just think, you know, we're all wrong most of the time. I mean, right?
Not me.
Okay,
I mean,
Beth said it, we didn't say it, but you're all wrong.
exactly. And what you're saying, Elaine, it's actually very interesting. Is it's much easier to comment when on Twitter with a fake name, right, or using other person's brand,
Mhm.
Yep.
etc., etc. I mean, it's not
You
easy,
don't know me.
exactly,
Yeah.
but it's easier.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like first few of my viral posts that went viral, honestly, I didn't feel comfortable about it at all. Like I would wake up in the morning like thinking, oh my gosh, like I missed like 10 hours of comments and whatnot. Like who the hell knows how people took it, right?
Right.
Um, so much like anything else, it's a muscle. You train it, but there's a whole bunch of negative thoughts, most probably. But then also there's a lot of people who find this to be useful, and I think that's what keeps you going, right?
Hmm.
Some people say, "Wow, I really like how you describe this," or "It really helped me here and there." And in all honesty, aside from all of us being wrong most of the time, we also like to be asked to help,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and which is a kind of human thing. You feel much better than about it, and the anxiety goes down because you're needed all of a sudden, etc., etc. So I think that's what motivates you to keep on doing it and to keep on going, right? But I think it's always good. So when you think of a network, think of it as who are my peers, so people that I'm same kind of ground level, kind of aligned on, and then think of the followers, kind of people that are learning from you, and think about the people, advisors, mentors, leaders who are like who know and have more experience than you in certain areas. So I think anything and everything that you post, kind of try and group the feedback that you're getting through lenses of those three groups. I think that would
Hmm.
help you really understand who you're writing for. And in all honesty, a lot of people stress. There's a whole bunch of good, useful creators on LinkedIn who advise other creators on how to do things. And one of their saying is like, figure out the niche, figure out who are you going after, right? In my mind, that's a lot of work and a lot of thinking, which is useful, but not when you're starting. When you're starting, you already overthink. You already overthink. You don't overdo because you just keep thinking. But
Yeah.
in
Right.
my honest opinion, you should just start, and document your journey, document what you're working on, document your thoughts, and share it with the world. At the very least, you're going to find a lot of people who are going through the same motion, and they'll engage and help, etc. But and out of that, the patterns will emerge, and the groups that follow you will emerge, right? So
Mhm.
you don't have to think about your niche. You don't have to fill out all the fancy templates. What you just need to do is start documenting regularly, right?
Hmm. And going and commenting on their stuff too, just not, hey, great post, but
Yeah, yeah,
actually giving some thought to it. If they include an article, take a skim of the article and give some actual thoughts into it. Or if they're asking a question, give your feedback. Don't just regurgitate what they might have said, just to,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
I think that that's one thing that's important.
A very good point. And in all honesty, I think just studying the copywriting and how to express oneself, I think is very useful now that I think about it, right? Because usually you conceive the idea like, let's say, 6 months to a year before you even start implementing, right? It's somewhere cooking. You kind of want to post, but you don't know. Then you're lurking on other people's posts. Maybe you read something about copywriting, and you should, because so when you think about our virtual world, so where do we spend time? On Zooms, calendars, Gmails, Slacks, um, LinkedIn's of the world, etc. So these are basically the main tools that we spend time on. And again, if you reflect back, for most of these, you need the good writing skills to express yourself, right? Sure, you can do videos and audio, but it's mainly writing. So I think this is a valuable skill uh, to really understand, and kind of learn.
So we've covered several different mistakes that people make, like writing too long of a post, not respecting people's time by writing those long posts? Are there other things that really come to mind that you think people need to keep in mind when they're engaging on LinkedIn?
Well, same old, right? Like, don't be afraid to ask, because usually if you're afraid to write or you're afraid to ask, you either don't believe enough in what you're doing, and asking people to buy or whatever, or you're just too shy, and you shouldn't be, right? So those are kind of the two main factors. And so one of the things that I figured out is people are just afraid to ask. Like, even some of the folks that I worked with, they're like, oh, but people are engaging. Oh, like every Lead Delta trial user is responding to my messages, and it's great. And I'm like, okay, so what is the next step, right? Again, be respectful of your time and their time, right? Cast that ask, like, okay, so this is the program we currently have. Are you willing to take the next step and buy it, right? Like, are you? So we have a 4 months off on annual. Ready to make a move? Question mark, right? That is because, again, what is the end goal? What are we aiming towards? Because we cannot help you if your trial expired and you're not using Lead Delta anymore. So
Right.
the conversation, stops making sense anymore. So again, chunks, being there on the ball, like being quick on replying to these messages, and again, treating and respecting the other person are two top things that I'd say. The third thing is the same old, like cast that ask, like give that call to action, right? Is what I would say is important. Also, like, don't overuse the assets. Again, it has to do with length. If you say, oh, we just have a new ebook, oh, and there's a discount on Lead Delta annual, oh, and by the way, we have onboarding.leaddelta.com, you can learn how to use, right? One step at a time. So don't like serve all the assets that you have immediately, but try and stay relevant. So those would be, I'd say, the key things.
So this is the biggest question that we're going to ask you. Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready? So if you weren't CEO of Lead Delta, what would your dream job be?
Wow. Okay. That is truly, well, I'll be a rock star. I mean,
yeah. Would you be in a boy band? Come on, be honest.
Would it be in a boy band? That's a good one. Like, give me one from the 90s. I actually did watch the Super Bowl show, and I was like, holy, this is awesome. Yeah. It's exactly the music of my, my youth. I love it.
I know. So I was singing it all. It was good.
It's like they hit the sweet spot. They know their ICPs, their audience, really well.
Yes.
I think, right? Maybe I'd prefer a rock band, but maybe boys band. I'm in Canada, so and you're Justin Bieber.
You can really play guitar though in a boy band, Elena.
No, but
that needs to shred.
You're just teasing me, There we go.
Well, I would go check out your concert, Ved, if you went on tour with a rock band.
Perfect. That makes us two of us.
And then we'll talk about AppSumo apps that we like.
There you go.
After the concert, VIP.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you coming on the podcast and getting to catch up with you since it's been a while. It's been
a long deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if people want to connect with you, what's the best way that they should do that?
I'm sure there's not truly Delta. Yeah, I'm sure there's not that many veteran Rasage online. And so you can find me. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter. Just Google the name. I'm sure, again, there's not that many with that weird name.
Yeah. And we'll also put it in the show notes.
And we'll also include a link to that ebook that we were discussing earlier.
Oh, absolutely.
Too. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Awesome.
Okay, so now that you know how to get in touch with Ved, you can also follow and connect with us on Twitter. You can get with Stacy at Stacy_Jax. That's STACY_JAX. You can connect with me on Twitter at Elena_Jax. That's ALANNA_JAX. And if you're not a Twitter fan, which a lot of people aren't, you can connect with us on LinkedIn, and it's Stacy Jackson, Elena Jackson. So talk to you next time.
Bye.